Welcome to the Banner County, the jewel on Ireland's Atlantic coast. Join us and explore Clare's rich cultural heritage, reaching back thousands of years into a treasure trove of history. Enjoy traditional music at its very best, a living, emotional link with our past. Discover the spirit of a people whose history is a tapestry of triumphs over adversity and boasts a rich vein of poetry, song, and great art. Clare's legacy to the world. Ennis is the county town and has been host to the Fleadh Cheoil on no fewer than 18 occasions. The Fleadh Cheoil is Ireland's festival of traditional entertainment, and young people in particular have a chance to display their skills in dancing, music and song. This little girl has had enough for one day. The Franciscans owned much of the land in and around Ennis, and it was the powerful O'Brien clan, former High Kings of Ireland, who built the medieval Franciscan friary known as Ennis Abbey in 1250. The strikingly tall east window with its 5 slender lights and pointed top was added about 1300 by Turlough O'Brien. The county courthouse was the meeting place of the Clare Grand Jury, forerunners of today's county council. Clare will be forever associated with Eamon de Valera, and the county library and museum is named after him. It occupies a converted Presbyterian church and houses some exceptional historical pieces and archival material. Many of the chief's personal effects, including his car, are on display here. Eamon de Valera has been associated with County Clare ever since he swept to victory in the first elections to the Irish Parliament in 1917. He held his Dáil seat for East Clare until he relinquished it in 1959 to become president. Clare is a treasure house of antiquities, and Honan's in Abbey Street is a veritable Aladdin's cave. Managed by Tony Honan and his sister Kathleen, the shop attracts antique dealers from as far afield as Canada, the USA, Germany, and Italy. Honans specialize in clocks and Belique china, but also sell a wide selection of music boxes, oil lamps, silverware, and period furniture. This first period Belique china centerpiece is known as the Minstrel Center. A portrait of a lady gazes out from this piece of Bohemian glass, dating from around 1860. Note the superb craftsmanship of this Meissen china compote from around the same period. France is where this gold and brass clock set originated, about 1840.
It's a London clock, very dark mahogany case, beautiful work in the case here, see all the carving. It's a 3-waiter clock. There's tubes here behind which it strikes on these tubes, and it has a very big mercury-filled pendulum. It has a brass and a silver dial. It chimes the hour, the quarter and the half. It has a Westminster or a Whittington strike. It's about 1870. It's a London clock. It's a steal at £10,000 only.
The ferry from Killimer links Clare with North Kerry across the Shannon estuary. This area will always be associated with the tragic story of Ellen Hanley, the Colleen Bawn, of Gerald Griffin's novel, Boucicault's play, and Benedict's opera, The Lily of Killarney. The story goes that Ellen Hanley was a maid in the house of a landlord, John Scanlon, and they fell deeply in love. Scanlon's family totally disapproved of the liaison, but despite this, he went ahead and married her. Things, however, did not work out between the couple, and Scanlon ended up drowning the unfortunate girl with the aid of one of his workmen. He was subsequently arrested, convicted of the murder, and hanged. Ellen Hanley's body was washed up on the shore of the Shannon and found by a local writer, Peter O'Connell. Her burial place is marked by a monument erected by O'Connell, who is buried alongside her. Just a few miles west of Killimer is Kilrush, a coastal resort and an ideal place to take a break from your travels, sit down and have a bite to eat. Kilrush was one of the stopping points of the West Clare Railway, whose legendary tardiness inspired Percy French to pen the famous comic ballad, Are You Right There, Michael? Apparently, the railway management of the time did not take kindly to the composer's slight on their reputation, and they took him to court. The judge, however, saw the humour of the situation and fined Percy French the enormous amount
You've heard
of
of
1 penny.
Columbus is sailing across the Atlantical Sea, but he never tried to go railing from Ennis as far as Kilkee. You run for the train in the morning, the excursion train leaving at 8. You're there when the clock gives its warning, and there for an hour you'll wait. And as you're sitting in the train, you'll hear the guard sing this refrain. Are you right there, Michael, are you right? Do you think that we'll be there before tonight? You've been so long in starting, sure I couldn't say for certain, and we might now, Michael, so we might. They find out where the engine's been hiding, and it drags you to Sweet Corofin. Says the guard back around down the siding, here's the goods from Kilrush coming in. Perhaps it comes in 2 hours, perhaps it breaks down on the way. If it does, says the guard, be the powers, we're here for the rest of the day. And as you sit and curse your luck, the train backs down into a truck. Are you right there, Michael, are you right? Have you got the parcel there for Mrs. White? You haven't, oh, begorra, say it's coming down tomorrow, and it might now, Michael, so it might. Uphill the old engine is climbing, while the passengers push with the will. You're in luck when you reach Ennistimon, for the rest of the way it's downhill. And as you're wobbling through the dark, you'll hear the guard sing this remark. Are you right there, Michael, are you right? Do you think that we'll be home before it's light? Oh, it all depends on whether the old engine holds together, and it might now, Michael, so it might. Oh, it all depends on whether the old engine holds together, and it might now, Michael, so it might.
Milltown Malbay is famous as a centre for traditional music and dancing. Musical instrument makers like this man selling bowrons are part of the local landscape. Feels good. Street musicians and buskers too are everywhere to be found. You're coming in. Might as well. Milltown prides itself on its vibrant street life. Visit any pub in town and you're likely to find yourself caught up in the excitement of a session. Traditional music is one of the few direct cultural links we have with the past in the west of Ireland. It reflects the spirit of the people today in the same way as it did in ancient times. The footprints of an older race are here, and memories of an old heroic time, and shadows of an old mysterious faith, so that the place seems haunted, and strange sounds float on the wind. Kilkee's reputation as a popular seaside resort grew up in Victorian times. The town has a superb beach with safe swimming, invigorating ocean breezes, and interesting walks. It is a paradise for the kids, and no wonder that families return here year after year. This little lady wants to give a hand with the sandcastles. Oh, don't stray too far now. There is an excellent selection of cafes, shops and restaurants. And if you fancy some cockles and mussels, Molly is just across the way with her barrow. The fairground is heaven for the children on the long summer evenings. And heaven for the grown-ups too. A welcome opportunity to enjoy a nice, relaxing pint and take a quiet stroll. Clare has an excellent reputation as a golfing county, with first-rate courses at Shannon, Ennis and Kilrush. But Lahinch is king, a championship course that bears comparison with the best in the world. Professional and amateur golfers come from far and wide to test their skill here, including Ireland's Ryder Cup hero Christy O'Connor, who describes the sixth hole.
Well, here we have the famous par 3 of 142 metres, and it's surrounded by two huge sand dunes back and front. You cannot actually see the green, so there's a little guided stone which is moved when the pin is moved to the left or right of the green. As you can see here, I've played for the back bank of the green, and the ball has rolled down towards the flagstick. I've been very lucky. It really is the best way to play the hole, and hopefully I might, oh, there she goes, make a nice little birdie. Thank you, sir.
Lahinch village itself is a popular holiday resort, noted for its good restaurants and water sports facilities. The spectacular cliffs of Moher, among the most magnificent stretches of cliff scenery in these islands, rise to a height of over 600 feet and extend for over 5 miles along Clare's Atlantic coast, due west of Liscannor. Horizontal layers of flagstones exposed by the ceaseless pounding of the Atlantic formed the cliffs. They also, in a different role, are the material quarried locally and cut as Liscannor slate, still to be seen roofing many local houses. The cliffs take their name from the ruined promontory fort Moher, which was demolished during the Napoleonic Wars to make room for a signal tower. O'Brien's Tower was built in 1835 by Sir Cornelius O'Brien and served originally as a tea house. It marks the highest point of the cliff range. Well, this fella certainly has a head for heights. Dusk on the cliffs of Moher, when the sun's rays and magic light echo the prehistoric glory of the place, unchanged for millennia. Our next stop is at Kilfenora, whose cathedral is still used for divine worship. It dates back to the 12th century, when St. Focna was the first bishop of Kilfenora. A tomb effigy occupies the wall on either side of this window. That of a bishop is on the left-hand side. The three-light east window of the on-roof chancel, built around 1200, is worthy of note. In ancient times, Kilfenora was known as ye City of the Crosses, as it boasts a number of impressive high crosses. There are 3 of these in the churchyard, the most interesting of which is the elaborately carved Doherty cross. Its eastern face shows St. Peter, crozier in hand. Beneath him stand 2 figures whose arms are linked. One, with an Irish-type crozier, is reputed to be a bishop, the other an abbot. It was a Limerick surgeon, Sylvester O'Halloran, who first analysed the spa waters of Lisdoonvarna in 1751 and declared them beneficial for health. All the waters contain the valuable therapeutic element iodine, and they are drunk hot or cold. A local hotelier, James White, talks about the town and its history.
Some people say, the spa was founded in Lisdoonvarna 150 years ago. And at that period, there was only 2 classes of people in Ireland. There was the landowners and the peasants. The landowners, of course, were the people who had the 300, 400 acres of land, and they wanted somewhere to go on their holidays. And they picked Lisdoonvarna because of the spa, because of the cure. And the sulphur water here is the cure for arthritis, for lumbago and pains like that. And they used to come here with their sons and daughters. And when they were in the baths down at the well, just down there 100 metres down at the bottom of the street, is that they used to have the sons and daughters, and the sons and daughters started to dance, and the music started. And even to this day, the first dance of the day, if you go down below today, is 12 o'clock midday. That's why Lisdoonvarna was founded. It was founded first of all for the spas. The matchmaking started because the wealthy people used to bring their sons and daughters here, and they wanted, of course, them to marry one of their own, marry somebody in the same class league, because they didn't want to marry the peasants, because the peasants couldn't afford to keep the sons and daughters of the wealthy landowners.
This time I continue with a lady's choice, 4-time waltz. So girls, dig into it.
And there's 20 different establishments here, 20 different pubs, where there's plenty of action, plenty of music, and that goes on till the small hours of the morning. And that's basically what the matchmaking festival is about. It's about meeting people, about dancing, about a few drinks, more dancing, more meeting people, and other people introducing other people to other people. That's what matchmaking is about. The people approaching the age of 40 that still haven't found this suitable partner in life. And we would like to think in Lisdoonvarna they have a great chance of finding it. I even met my own wife here, and I suppose it's like everything else. If you come here first of all to enjoy yourself. You're hoping secretly, if you're not married, to meet somebody who will be suitable for the rest of your life.
Having a flutter on the roulette wheel is all part of the fun at Lisdoonvarna, just like the gamble of choosing the right partner in life. If you're thinking of putting your money on the blue, well, think again.
Number 2 is Ticket.
Racing is tremendously popular down the country, and the Listún Varna meeting is a great crowd puller on summer evenings. This may not be the Curragh or Leopardstown, but the basic ingredients are here. Horses, jockeys, bookmakers, and punters.
In other words, 1 full lap of the beach is a half a mile. We'd like to welcome you all here today, and we hope that you enjoy the Listún Varna races. For the owners and the jockeys, we would ask you now to declare the runners for the next 5 races to the Seaburn box. You see the red box here that's called Seaburn, that's our headquarters for today. Just to go and declare the runners to Mrs. Fahy, and we hope you'll all have, of course, enjoyable races. Thank you for coming, and I hope that you make plenty of money. Of course, the bookies are also hoping that they're going to make plenty of money. No. That's the same. Look at it. Ready, fire!
And that horse is a dead cert, was he? Oh well.
Second was Salman Girl, and third was Cobra from the Lions, and number 2 is Ceylon.
Because I'm on a bachelor over there.
Oh, here's a real test of strength now. All right. Go for it.
Yep.
Oh,
You'd be no good driving stakes, would you?
Hangover club in the morning.
Oh, hangover club.
Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning, White Castle.
You're in the hangover club now.
No. You have to create the hangover now tonight.
Well, should we have one from yesterday?
Oh, that's good enough. You have to bring the women with hangovers as well.
Where would you get a hangover woman?
The White Castle tomorrow morning, 9
What
o'clock.
is the White Castle?
Hi, we're from Sneem in County Kerry.
Oh, very good, very
Having a great time here today.
We're on spinach. Popeye.
We do that tonight. Don't squeeze me until I'm yours now.
We're not here for the women, we're here for the beer.
All the way from Strang in County Limerick.
Great spot. Anytime you want a man, come to Listún Varna.
We're standing here now with 3 of my friends, and we're just going to go into the matchmaker bar. Well, 2 of them are married, but they're going to see what their chances are like. And myself and Michelle here are just going to suss out
They're looking for a man. Look what I found in the matchmaker bar.
Lemanna Castle was one of the principal strongholds of the O'Brien clan and figures prominently in the history of Clare. The Tower House or castle at the east was built around 1480 by the father of Sir Donat O'Brien. The adjoining house, a striking 4-storey building with mullioned and transomed windows, was built by Conor O'Brien about 1640. Conor was the husband of Mora Rua MacMahon, about whom a multitude of stories are told, none of them complimentary, and most of a doubtful origin. The traditional thatched cottage has been part of the Clare landscape for thousands of years. Thatching is a highly skilled craft which has regained much of its popularity in recent years. A thatched roof may take a little longer to complete than using slates, but it's well worth the effort. It keeps the house warm and dry in winter and cool in summer. And it looks great too. Ballyvaughan is the gateway to the Burren and was established as a fishing and trading port in the early years of the 19th century. It's a charming place, especially in summer, and for those looking for a quiet holiday, Ballyvaughan is the place. Now, didn't I tell you that smoking wasn't good for you? For many visitors, Ballyvaughan is the starting point for a tour of the Burren, and what better way to do it than on a bicycle? The world-famous Burren region of North Clare takes its name from the Irish word Burren, meaning a rocky place. And rocky it is, with some commentators referring to it as a lunar landscape, seemingly barren and lifeless. Cromwell's General Ludlow described it as a place that has not enough earth to bury a man, not enough timber to hang him, or enough water to drown him. The opposite, of course, is true. The Burren limestone is over 300 million years old, making this an ancient region which has stood above sea level before the Alps, Andes, or Himalayas ever existed. It is a truly magical place where many species of plants and flowers thrive which are found nowhere else in Ireland. Some of these species are native to the Arctic regions and to the Mediterranean, and have grown here since the last ice age about 15,000 years ago. There are three reasons why so many different flowers and plants thrive in the Burren. First, the high density of light in the Burren reflected from the sea and the naked limestone. It's vital for the survival of the Arctic type of plants. Second, the warming effect of the Gulf Stream which flows along the coast. It is essential for the Mediterranean species. Thirdly, the terraced limestone hills act like giant storage heaters by absorbing the natural heat of the Atlantic and the sun. County Clare, and the Burren in particular, are world-renowned potholing and caving areas. Clare, in fact, has more caves than any other county in Ireland. Alwee Cave, about 2 miles north of Ballyvaughan, is the best known of them all. And Carl Wright, the cave guide, tells the story of its creation and discovery.
The cave was discovered in 1940 by a local farmhand, Jekyll McGann, who was herding sheep at the time on the mountain and noticed his dog disappearing down through some rocks after a rabbit. He went to investigate and discovered the little entrance to the cave. Now, it was opened up to the public as a show cave in 1976, and while they were digging out the entrance of mud and laying paths through here, they discovered quite a number of bones in this section. and quite a few of them turned out to belong to the European brown bear. Now, the bones which we have here on display are about 1,500 years old. It is believed there were bears in Ireland up until possibly 1,200 years ago. The hollows in the mud along this part of the cave seem to be the beds which the bears would have scraped out to sleep in, and that's really what makes this place unique. It is the only site in Ireland or in Britain where bear pits have ever been found. So that is why we use the symbol of the bear for the cave. At this present moment, we would be around 400 feet beneath the surface of the mountain. The cave system's total length is around 1 mile. The tourist section of that is around 1/3 of a mile. The cave system was created entirely by the action of running water and is believed to be about 1.5 to 2 million years old. So the cave we're walking through is really a dried up river bed. Now, when it rains in an area like the Burren, in a limestone area, you will find very little surface water. There are no rivers, there are no streams to be found on the surface, which for a mountainous area is possibly a little strange. But you see, the minute the water lands on the surface, it disappears down the nearest crack in the limestone. The cracks enlarge to take more water, and eventually streams and rivers will just disappear down through holes in the ground. Now, these are the holes which we know as potholes or swallet holes. Now, when you're inside a cave and you have water coming through the roof, as you can see here, this is directly under a swallet or a pothole. The waterfall responds quite dramatically to rainfall, so if it is pouring with rain outside, you'll see a tremendous increase in the volume of water coming in. Well, we're looking at the stalagmites and stalactites here. The stalagmites are the ones coming up from the bottom, and the stalactites coming out from the top. These are crystal formations which form in a cave when rainwater, being mildly acidic, comes down through very, very small cracks in the rock, dissolving the rock, and then reforming it on contact with the air inside the cave as crystal. They take thousands of years to develop. The ones that we can see in front of us here are around 8 to 10,000 years and still growing now.
The Portal Dolmen at Powell-na-Brone is one of the finest megalithic structures in Ireland. The dolmen dates from 3000 BC and would have been erected as a grave at that time. The capstone measures 12 feet by 7, and the whole monument would originally have been covered by a cairn of loose stones and soil. Powell-na-Brone evokes the spirits of our long-dead ancestors in a magical and mysterious way. It harks back to a time when man and the elements were at one. Doolin is a remote fishing village at the northern end of the Cliffs of Moher and is famous for its wealth of Irish traditional music. Doolin is home to Michael Russell, the well-known traditional singer and instrumentalist. Michael and his brother Gussie on flute are renowned for their renditions of the old traditional music. O'Connor's Pub is one of the best-known venues for an Irish traditional session.
County Clare, among all the King County Rangers. I next had a run and short great fun before the Galway Blazers. Here I am today, so fresh and gay, eating your fine fat goose, you gamer. All the hounds, you know, after me can go, for I never fear any danger. You'll fimme, o Ballyvichan, Suas go Clachan, is a Ross command gan bregach. Cape Heart and down, a yacht to own, come at a tursach treadje. You'll hear a news that I stole a goose that was cooked right in the table. Because indeed I liked her well, she was so nice and tender. Why don't you kill them all yourself and give them to your children?
Killaloe is the most important boating and fishing centre within the 3 counties of Clare, Limerick and Tipperary. There are facilities for sailing and a large marina, and the canal is a popular mooring spot for pleasure craft. The town is sited on high ground west of the narrow bridge crossing the Shannon. The summit of the hill was formerly occupied by the Royal Palace of Kincora, with which the name of Brian Boru is inseparably linked. St. Flannan's Cathedral on the west bank of the River Shannon is a simple building without aisles, dating from the 13th century, and there is a narrow lancet window on each side of the cathedral. St. Malua founded the original monastery here, but Donal Mór O'Brien erected the first cathedral, subsequently destroyed in 1185. St. Flannan's Oratory is named after the saint who became the first bishop of Killaloe in 639. A holiday on the Shannon is a wonderful way of relaxing and enjoying the peace and tranquility of life on the river. Hire a boat and explore its charms and mysteries. Mount Shannon is a sleepy landlord's village of the 18th century overlooking Lough Derg. It is well laid out and planted and has won the Bord Fáilte Tidy Towns competitions on several occasions. If it's warm enough, you might think of going for a swim. Or you might just feel like taking it easy and having a pint at the local pub. Inishcaltra, or the Holy Island, lies just over a mile from Mount Shannon and is notable for its early monastic remains. The settlement was founded in the 7th century by Saint Caiman and remained in active occupation, despite the Norse invaders, until the 13th century. Inishcaltra has remained a place of pilgrimage until recently, and there is a tradition in the area for local families to be buried on the island. The deceased has a dignified resting place among the saints and scholars of earlier days.
rise from the first to rise from the dead. And we know he will raise up our mortal bodies like his in glory. We commend our brother to the Lord, and the Lord will receive him into his peace and raise up his body on the last day. Let us pray for our brother, for Lord Jesus Christ, who said, I am the resurrection and the life. If anyone believes in me, though he dies, he will live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die.
What better way to spend a winter's evening than listening to the stories of long ago, especially ghost stories? The tradition of storytelling is alive and well in Clare, and Edmund Lenihan is one of its best exponents.
There's many a well-educated person today that'll tell you that there's no such thing as the banshee, that she don't exist. But I'll tell you, as a person, not 3 miles from here, who has good reason to know that she exists. And I'll tell you why. He was one of a big family of sons, and, of course, they were all mad for cards and out gambling and dancing and singing at night. But this night, the youngest of those sons was coming home, across the crag, over in a place called Bearfield. And begad, as he was travelling away, thinking nothing, whistling to himself, coming near the house, he heard this noise. And it was a kind of a howling. At first he thought it was a child. And the more he listened, he thought it might be a cat. But no, it was as lonesome a sound as ever he heard. But begad, he said, hiya, I'll find out, just somebody maybe trying to fool me. And he cocked his ear and listened again. He figured out the direction it was coming from, and he started on that way. And he came up at the top of this little rocky incline and looked down into this little valley, maybe 20 feet deep. And there below at the bottom, by the light of the moon, he saw this woman. And her head thrown back, and she "Ow!" like a wolf howling at the moon. Begad, he says, I'll find out who that lady is, and if she's trying to frighten me, she is. She'll pay for it. He made his way down quietly behind her. And when he came to where she was sitting, he crept up, got her by the shoulder and whipped her round. And begad, if he did, that's as far as he got, because up with her hand, like that, across the face, hit him a belt, sent him spinning, and when he pulled himself up, maybe 5 seconds or nay, looked around him, she was gone. And begad, it was only then he noticed the tingling in his face. He put up his hand and felt it, and he saw the blood. Oh, Lord God. He ran out of it. He ran home as fast as he could, burst in the kitchen door, and when his mother saw him, in the name of God, Patrick, says she, what were you doing? What happened to you at all? What do you mean? And he saw the hand, and he saw that it was blood. She bathed him. She washed him. And begad, when he looked at himself in the mirror, it was then he saw the mark of the 4 fingers across his face and the skin gone. And try as he would to grow a moustache, to grow a whisker, to cover it up, he couldn't. It was there until the day he died as a living mark for every person in that parish of Bearfield that he had no right to interfere with the banshee.
Quin Abbey was founded by the McNamaras around 1350. It incorporates parts of a great castle built by Thomas de Clare of Bunratty. The abbey was suppressed by the English in 1541, but the friars returned soon afterwards and remained, with 1 or 2 interruptions, until the beginning of the 19th century. Craganoan, near Quin, is an attempt to recreate Ireland's past with the restoration of earlier forms of dwelling houses, farmsteads, hunting sites, and other features of everyday life from the prehistoric and early Christian eras. The project was the idea of the late John Hunt, who was an advisor to Sotheby's on medieval art. He bought the land at Craganoan and restored this 16th century castle, built by John Shear de McNamara, which was the ordinary residence of the gentry at the time. The crannog, or lake dwelling, is of a type found in Ireland during the Iron Age and early Christian periods, though some were inhabited as late as the 17th century. Crannogs were artificial islands on which people built houses, kept animals, and lived in relative security. Life was difficult and dangerous in those times. There was the constant threat from wild animals, roaming bands of thieves, and even rival tribes. Food had to be cultivated and harvested at any cost. Implements of the type used by the inhabitants are on display. Cooking would have been done in a skillet over an open fire. Goat and sheepskins would have been hung up to dry inside the houses. The houses themselves were made of wattles and mud, and a timber fence would have surrounded the crannog. The ring fort was the normal type of farmstead during the pre-Christian era, and within the circular earthen banks or stone walls, the inhabitants carried on their everyday farmyard activities. Cooking was done over open fires, and corn was ground for making bread. St. Brendan the Navigator was the first man to cross the Atlantic. The reconstructed leather-hulled boat built by Tim Severin and sailed by him on the Brendan voyage is on display at Craiganoan. Dromoland Castle at Newmarket-on-Fergus was the residence of Lord Inchiquin, head of the O'Brien clan, until 1962. The O'Briens occupied Leemana Castle, but moved to Dromoland at the end of the 17th century. The present castle was built by James Payne, one of two brothers brought from England to work on Loch Cultra Castle near Gort in 1826. It has been beautifully preserved and restored and is now a luxury hotel attracting visitors from all over the world, particularly Japan and the United States. The origins of Bunratty go back to the first castle built on the site by Thomas de Clare in 1277. Bunratty is one of Clare's and Ireland's most popular tourist attractions, with tens of thousands of visitors enjoying the famous medieval banquets every year. The neighbouring Bunratty Folk Park features a faithful recreation of a 19th century village street. Among the places to visit are a pawnbroker's shop, a pub, a hotel, and family grocers. This thatched cottage has been beautifully preserved. In the nearby farmyard is a grain store, which is home to this young rooster. Well, this is where we bid you farewell. We hope you've enjoyed your journey through the Banner County, and at the end of a long day, all that remains is to wish you Slán Abhaile, safe home.